Good day, everyone. We are the Group 2 of PSA 1D. I'm Angel G. Cuevas.
I'm Laika Grace Famat.
I'm Maria Cristina Galang.
I am Bethel Jane S. Marshall.
I am Ramsel Faith L. Mingito.
I am Marjorie Pangmaybay.
And I am Jinky C. Ichavia.
For today's lesson, we will be talking about circle graph.
So, lend us your ears as you feed your minds with unforgettable learnings.
Have you heard about the shape circle? I assume yes, because shapes, including circle, are taught during our childhoods. Circle is a round-shaped figure that has no corner or edge, connected by various points, and has a constant circumference. The word circle comes from the Greek word kurkos, which means a ring. We can notice that a ring is in shape of a circle. But did you know that circle is a foundation of a pie graph? Try to imagine yourself with a group of friends having a picnic together. You have there in your food a pizza and a pie. What do you notice as you start eating the pizza and a pie together? The pizza has slices and you have to slice the pie to get the portion you want. But what do these slices represent? The slices of pizza and pie represents your part, and another slices of it represents a portion for your other friends. From this given situation, do you now have an idea about circle graph or pie graph? If not, let's dig deeper into the topic.
Before digging into the topic, we have here our learning objectives. After our discussion for today, you should be able to have a fair knowledge about the history of a circle graph, define what is a circle graph and identify its various types, understand how to construct a circle graph and compute the angles on it, and explain the importance and use of a circle graph. Now, buckle up and enjoy our discussion.
So I'm going to discuss about the history of pie chart. Pie chart has been around for over 200 years. This was first invented in 1801 by William Playfair, a Scottish writer on political economy. Playfair believed that making an appeal to the eye when proportion and magnitude are concerned is the best and readiest method of conveying a distinct idea, and the pie chart and bar chart were born. His first notable use of the pie chart was to compare geopolitical territories, represented by circles, sometimes segmented in slices, like in the case of Turkish Empire. The invention was almost forgotten until 1858. Charles Joseph Menard, a French civil engineer, created a divided circle map. This shows the amount and proportions of butcher's meat supplied to the Paris market. At about the same time, Florence Nightingale, the English nurse, social reformer, a statistician, used a polar area diagram to show the dynamics of the mortality causes of the British Army in the East. Each sector had equal angles and differ only on how far the radius extends from the center of the circle. As time went by, pie chart experienced many adaptations and transformations and ended up converted into things like donut charts, exploded pie charts, polar area diagrams, multi-level pie charts, and 3D pie cakes.
I will now discuss to you what is circle graph. So, a circle graph, also known as pie graph, is a circular graph divided into slices. These slices are used to illustrate the parts of a whole. So, for example, if we were to make a pie graph with 4 parts, then we will have to divide the circle into 4 slices as well. Next, we will tackle portion. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a portion is an individual's part or share of something. In a circle graph, a portion is just like a slice. It is also used to represent a part of a whole. Portions are labeled according to the categorical and numerical data it represents. Now, What do we mean by categorical and numerical data? First, categorical data. It is the description of each slice in a circle graph. Next, numerical data. It represents the value of each category. It is also the basis of the arc length of each slices. We have here a sample illustration. It is the pie graph of the expenses of Mr. Bean's coffee shop business. As what we can see in the graph, the smallest slice, which covers 5% of the expenses, is the tax and licenses expense, while the biggest slice, which covers 30% of the expenses, is the rent expense. It clearly shows that the arc length of each slice is proportional to the value it holds in the graph. There are different types of circle graphs. They look slightly different from each other, but they represent data in the same manner. The first one is a basic circle graph. This graph looks just like the ones presented a while ago. Next is the exploded circle graph. In this graph, the slices are exploded out in order to show details or to highlight a particular section. Next is the 3D circle graph. This graph is often used for aesthetic reasons. Next, the donut chart. It looks just like a basic circle graph, but with a hole in the center. Lastly, the exploded donut chart. It looks like donut chart, but the slices are exploded out.
Now, I will discuss to you the steps on how to construct a circle graph. Manually, you need to have a paper, pencil, a compass, and a protractor. First, we need to have our data. The data we're going to use will be the expenses of Mr. Bean's coffee shop business with the following breakdown. Wages expense of 100,000 pesos, tax and licenses expense of 25,000 pesos, supplies expense of 125,000 pesos, utilities expense of 100,000 pesos, and rent expense of 150,000 pesos. We must remember that the slices of a circle graph is proportional to the value they represent. Now, for our second step, we will be solving for the angles of each category. There are two formulas in getting the angles. First is the value of the component divided by total value multiplied to 360 degrees. The 360 degrees is the total angle of the whole circle. The second formula will be used when data are expressed in percentage. Percentage value of the component divided by 100 multiplied to 360 degrees. For our given data, we will be using the first given formula. The total value of our data is 500,000 pesos, and so for our wages expense, we have 100,000 divided by 500,000 times 360 degrees is equals to 72 degrees. So the angle of our wages expense in the circle graph must be 72 degrees. The same process will be made to the other categories. At this point, because the angles for each categories have been identified, we can now construct a circle graph using a compass and a protractor in measuring the angles. So this is now the representation of the given data. We must take note that a circle graph must have a title, a categorical label and numerical label, or a legend. And for lesser efforts, we can use various apps and websites to create a circle graph.
Problem number 1. Constructing a circle graph. The coffee business of Mr. Bean acquired an asset of 500,000 pesos on the month of June 2021. The breakdown of it is as follows. Cash for 200,000 pesos. Accounts receivable for 150,000 pesos. Equipment for 100,000 and furniture and fixtures for 50,000 pesos. Now, how do we represent this using the circle graph? Well, first, we need to solve for the measure angles of each category using the formula value of the component over the total value multiplied by 360 degrees. Try to look at the table. As we can observe on the given data, we have here the total value of asset, which is 500,000. Now, to compute the angle of cash, we need to divide the percentage, which is 200,000, to the total value of asset, which is 500,000, then multiplied by 360 degrees, which is the total angle of the circle. And then as we answer this, we came up with a result of 144 degrees. The same process will be made to the following categories of assets. Now, at this point, because the angles of the category has been identified, we can now construct a circle graph. Now, here is our illustration of circle graph for this problem. As we can notice, the size of the slices is proportional to the value of slices it represents.
Hi everyone, now we're going to talk about the problem number 2. Mr. Bean's coffee shop business has a liability worth of 150,000. The breakdown of it is as follows expressed in percent. We have accounts payable 20%, notes payable 30%, and unearned revenues 50%. So how do we represent this using a circle graph? Since our data is in percentage, we're going to find the central angles using the formula percentage value of component divided by 100 multiplied by 360 degrees. In this table, we were able to see the different types of liabilities acquired by the business, the components of the value in percentage, and the measure of the central angles. Accounts payable, which is 20% of the liabilities, is equals to 72 degrees. Notes payable, which is 30%, is 108 degrees. And then earned revenues, which is 50%, is 180 degrees. After finding the central angle for each component using the formula given, we can now construct our circle graph with the given data. Now, we can notice in the illustration that the size of each slices is proportional to the value of each slice that it represents.
Circle graph is only suitable for selected cases. You cannot use it to all types of data. When to use a circle graph? Use a circle graph when data is varied. Use a circle graph when you have a maximum of 7 data snippets. Use a circle graph when you're comparing parts of a whole. Where not to use a circle graph? Don't use a circle graph when you have a similar data values. Don't use circle graph when accuracy is the name of the game. Don't use a circle graph when you need to show patterns, causes of effects, or changes over time. Circle graphs are beloveds of mass and business presentation and are also common data representatives in marketing and sales. They also sneak their way into social media feeds, where this can be used to share boring data in eye-pleasing manner. Advantages of circle graph. Circle are pros at information visualization. Circle charts are circular. Pie charts are easy to construct. Tips in using circle graph. Use multiple pie charts if you need to represent 2 sets of relevant data. 3D and explosive effects are cool but not all the time. You can animate your circle graph. Start designing circle graphs today.
At this point, we have now learned about circle graph, its importance, when and how we could use a circle graph. To summarize, a circle graph, or also known as pie graph or chart, is a type of data presentation in a shape of circle. It represents a portion of the whole through slices, wherein the sizes of each slice is proportional to the value it represents. To proportionally construct a circle graph, we could use a protractor by using these formulas and getting the angle for each slices. The angle at the center corresponding to a particular component is given by the value of component over the total value times 360 degrees. And if the value of the components are expressed in percentage, then the angle at the center corresponding to a particular component is given by percentage value of a component over 100 times 360 degrees. Or we could also use various apps to create circle graph with lesser effort. In constructing circle graph, head title, a legend if necessary for numerical and categorical data, and short explanation must be present. Also, there are various types of circle graph depending on the creativity of the maker. Some of it are the basic circle graph, exploded circle graph, 3D circle graph, donut chart, and exploded donut chart. To conclude, a circle graph is used to easily visualize information and data in proportional manner.
Because everything has its ending, sadly, our lesson for today has to end. Once again, we are the group 2 of BS91D.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you've learned something from our discussion. God bless and stay safe.